The Buddha, in his last days, lay resting between two sal trees, and the disciples around him wept, for they believed that when he was gone, the peace he carried would go with him. And he looked at them with great tenderness, and he told them a thing so simple that many of them did not understand it for years. He told them that the peace they were grieving to lose had never belonged to him, it had never been his to give, and so it could never be his to take away. It was already in them, already whole, the way water is already wet, the way the sky is already wide. They had only been looking for it in the wrong direction. They had been looking outward, at his calm face, at his still hands, when the thing they longed for was the very one doing the longing. That is the ache we will sit with tonight, you and I, in this quiet hour when the day has finally let go of you. The ache of searching, the long, tired, patient searching for a peace that always seems to be somewhere else, in the next season, the next success, the next quiet morning that never quite arrives. And tonight, we are going to turn that search gently around, the way you might turn a sleeping child so they rest more easily, and we are going to look at something that sounds strange the first time you hear it, and truer every time after. The one who is searching for peace is already peace itself. This is the single thing we will explore, slowly, from many sides, until the searching itself grows quiet. Before we begin, feel free to share what time it is and where you're listening from. Let us be honest about what we mean by peace, because the word has been worn thin by too much use. When we say peace, we do not mean a life with nothing in it, no worries, no work, no grief, no unpaid bill or unanswered message. That kind of peace does not exist for anyone who is still breathing, and to chase it is to chase a mirage that recedes exactly as fast as you walk toward it. And we do not mean numbness either, the flat gray calm of not caring, of pulling away from everything until nothing can touch you. That is not peace. That is only a smaller kind of exile. The peace we mean is something quieter and far more available than either of those. It is not the absence of waves. It is the depth of the water beneath them. It is not a place you arrive at when everything is finally arranged. It is a way of resting inside your own life, exactly as it is, unfinished, imperfect, still in motion. Nothing here needs to be fixed for you to have it. Nothing needs to be achieved. You do not have to become a calmer person first, or a wiser one, or a more disciplined one. There is no entrance fee. That is the whole scandal of it, the thing that is almost too generous to believe. You already have what you have been looking for. Tonight is not about getting it. Tonight is only about noticing. So let the body grow still. Let the breath slow on its own, without you pushing it. There is nothing to force here. Let your shoulders come down from wherever the day left them, up near your ears, holding on. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands, wherever they are resting, grow soft and heavy and open. You do not have to hold anything right now. Not the day behind you, not the day ahead, not even these words. Let them wash over you, the way water washes over stone, taking nothing, leaving everything a little smoother than before. Thank you for joining us here at Midnight Monk. Let us begin. There is a teaching the Buddha gave again and again, in many forms, and it lives near the center of everything we will say tonight. He said that craving is the root of suffering, not the world, not other people, not even our pain, but the reaching, the grasping, the endless leaning forward towards something we do not yet have. And peace, he said, is what remains when that reaching finally rests. Notice what he did not say. He did not say, peace is something you build or earn or import from somewhere far away. He said, peace is what remains. It is what is already there underneath the reaching, the way the floor of a room is already there underneath the furniture. You do not create the floor by moving the couch. You only uncover what was holding everything up the whole time. Think of a lake at dawn, before the wind. The surface is perfectly still, and in it, the whole sky is held. The moon, the last stars, the first pale gray of morning. The lake is not trying to reflect the sky. It is not straining, not concentrating, not working at it. It simply is still, and because it is still, the sky appears in it, complete and unbroken. Now throw a single stone. The sky shatters into 1,000 pieces, scattered across the ripples, and for a moment, you cannot find the moon at all. But here is the thing worth sitting with. The lake did not lose the moon. The moon was never in the lake. The lake was only still enough, for a while, to show it. And when the ripples fade, and they always fade, in their own time, if you stop throwing stones, the moon returns, whole, as if it had never left. Because it never did. Your mind is that lake. The peace you are searching for is that stillness. And the searching itself, the reaching, the throwing of stone after stone into your own depths to see if peace is down there somewhere, that is the very thing keeping the water troubled. There is a story of a young monk who came to an old teacher in the mountains, and he came in a great hurry, though he had traveled many weeks to get there. He arrived at the small hut just as the sun was setting, and before he had even set down his pack, he began to speak. "Teacher," he said, "I have practiced for 6 years. I have sat until my legs went numb and past it. I have fasted. I have kept silence. I have read every sutra I could find and copied many of them by hand. And still, I have not found peace. Tell me what I am doing wrong. Tell me the one thing I am missing, and I will do it, whatever it costs." The old teacher looked at him for a long moment, and then he said, "You have come a long way. You must be thirsty. Sit, and I will make tea." And the young monk, who had not wanted tea, who had wanted an answer, sat down, because there is a kind of tiredness that finally does what it is told. The old man made the tea slowly. He heated the water and warmed the cups and measured the leaves, and he did not speak, and the young monk grew more and more restless, thinking, "I did not come all this way for tea." At last the teacher set a cup before him and poured, and he kept pouring, until the tea reached the rim of the cup and rose above it and spilled over onto the table and ran off the edge and onto the young monk's knee, hot, so that he jumped back. "Stop!" the young monk cried. "It's full. It's overflowing. You can't put anything more in. Can't you see it's already full?" And the old teacher set down the pot and looked at him with the kindest eyes he had ever seen and said very softly, "Yes, this is you. How can I show you peace when you are already so full of your 6 years, your fasting, your silence, your searching, your certainty that peace is something I have and you do not? Empty your cup, then we will see what was always in the water." We do the same, all of us, more often than we would like to admit. We come to rest already full of the effort of resting, full of our theories about how peace should feel and how long it should take and what kind of person deserves it. We turn the search for stillness into one more task on the list, one more thing to do well, and then we are frustrated when the very effort of chasing calm keeps us from it, the way running toward the horizon never brings the horizon closer. He believed peace was a possession the teacher was withholding, when it was a stillness his own reaching kept disturbing. And most of us have done exactly this, lain awake at night, trying so hard to fall asleep that the trying itself keeps us wide awake, straining toward rest, which is the one thing straining can never reach. Empty the cup, not by adding and emptying, that is just more tea, but by setting down the pot, by letting the reaching for one breath simply stop. Let us rest here a little while. There is no hurry to move on. Feel the breath as it comes and goes, coming in without your permission, leaving without your effort, the body breathing itself the way it has all your life, while you were busy elsewhere. When you feel ready, and only then, we will go on together. The Buddha spoke often of a word we might translate simply as equanimity, though that word too sounds cold and distant, like something carved in stone. In his own tongue it was a word that pointed to a balanced steadiness of heart, not the flatness of not caring, but the openness of caring without clutching. Let us not mistake it. This does not mean you stop loving your life, or the people in it. It means you hold them the way you would hold water in your palm, cupped, gentle, without squeezing. Because water cannot be squeezed. The tighter your fist, the faster it escapes between your fingers. Open your hand, and the water rests there, and you can carry it. This is the shape peace takes in the body of an ordinary day. not a fist, but an open hand. There is a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. Long ago, in a village at the edge of a wide valley, there lived a farmer who owned one good horse, and one morning the horse broke through the fence and galloped off into the hills and did not come back. That evening, his neighbors gathered at his gate, full of pity, and they said, "What terrible luck! Your only horse, gone. How will you plow? How will you carry your goods to market? What terrible, terrible luck!" And the old farmer leaned on his gate and looked out at the hills and said only, "Maybe, maybe not. We will see." The neighbors thought him strange, even cold, for not weeping with them. But the farmer had lived a long time, and he had learned something about the shape of things. 3 days later, the horse returned, and it did not come alone. It came leading a whole herd of wild horses down out of the hills, strong and unbroken, and they followed the farmer's horse right through the open gate into his field. Now the farmer had not one horse but 7, and the neighbors came running, and now they cried, "What wonderful luck! What a blessing! 7 horses where there was none! You are the luckiest man in the valley." And the farmer, mending the fence, looked up and said again, "Maybe, maybe not. We will see." The next week his son, a strong young man, was breaking one of the wild horses to the saddle, and the horse threw him, and he fell badly and broke his leg, so badly that he would walk with a limp for the rest of his days. And the neighbors returned, faces long, saying, "What sorrow, what terrible misfortune, your only son lamed." And the farmer sat beside his son's bed and said softly, "Maybe, maybe not. We will see." And a month after that, soldiers came through the valley, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a war in the north, a war from which few would return. And they came to the farmer's house, and they saw the young man with his legs still splinted, unable to march, and they passed him by. And the neighbors, who had sent their own sons away weeping, came to the farmer once more, and they did not know what to say. And the farmer said what he had always said, "Maybe, maybe not. We will see." We do the same as those neighbors, running from the gate to the gate, up and down, lifted to the sky by good news, and dropped to the floor by bad, exhausted by the constant rising and falling of a story that is not even finished. The farmer's peace was not that he did not care about his horse or his son. He loved them both. His peace was that he had stopped pretending to know the ending. He held each event with an open hand, saying, in effect, "This is what has come, and I do not yet know what it means, and I do not need to know tonight in order to rest." And here is the strange part. It is not the events of our lives that wear us out so much as our verdicts on them, our instant, absolute certainty that this one is a disaster and that one is a triumph, when the truth is that we are standing in the middle of a sentence, unable to see the word that comes next. The farmer had unclenched the fist. He was carrying the water. Tonight, whatever the day handed you, you are allowed to set down the verdict. You do not have to decide right now what any of it finally means. You can say, into the dark, maybe, maybe not, we will see, and let that be enough to sleep on. We began by saying that the one who searches for peace is peace itself, and now we can feel the first edge of why. The farmer did not find his peace by arranging the world so that only good things happened. No one has ever managed that, not once, in all the long history of wanting. He found it by resting in the one place the storms could not reach. Not the horses, not the harvest, not the outcome, but the still watcher within him who could meet each thing as it came and let it pass. That watcher is not something you have to build. It is the one reading these events right now. It is the one who was there before the good news and stayed after the bad. It is already still, already whole, already peace. You have simply been so busy watching the horses that you forgot to notice the one who was watching. There is an old teaching from Lao Tzu, the quiet sage of ancient China, who wrote a small book of few words that has outlived empires. He spoke of a way of moving through life that we might call, in plain English, effortless action. Action without strain, doing without forcing, the way water finds its way to the sea. It does not fight the mountain, it does not argue with the stone, It simply yields and flows around and finds the lower place, and in yielding it, arrives everywhere it needs to be. Lao Tzu said that nothing in the world is softer than water, and yet nothing is better at wearing down what is hard. Force loses what softness keeps. Think of that the next time you are pushing against your own life at 3 in the morning, trying to shove the day into a shape it will not take. The river does not push. The river arrives. There is a story of a great archer, famous throughout the provinces, who could split a willow leaf at 100 paces and never miss. Kings sent for him. Crowds gathered to watch. And because so many watched, and so much was expected, a strange thing began to happen. When he shot for practice, alone in a quiet field, his arrows flew true as breath. But when he shot in a contest, with a prize of gold on the line and 100 eyes upon him, his hand would tremble, just slightly, and the arrow would drift, just slightly, and he would lose. He could not understand it. His skill was the same, his eye was the same, his arm was the same. What was different? He went at last to an old teacher who lived by a river, a man who was said to understand such things, and he told him his trouble. When it matters most, he said, I fail. When nothing is at stake, I cannot miss. It makes no sense. Surely when I care more, I should shoot better. The old teacher took him down to the river and pointed to a plank laid across a narrow stream, a hand's width above the water. Walk across it, he said, and the archer walked across easily, without a thought, back and forth, laughing, for it was nothing. Then the teacher led him up the gorge to where the same plank, the very same width of wood, was laid across a deep ravine, a great drop to the rocks and rushing water far below. Now walk across, he said, and the archer stepped onto the plank and froze. His legs shook, his breath went shallow. He could not take 3 steps, and the teacher said, The plank has not changed, your skill at walking has not changed. What changed is that now you have something to lose, and the moment you have something to lose, you stop looking at the plank and start looking at the fall. When you shoot for gold, you are not aiming at the target anymore. You are aiming at the winning and at the crowd and at the not losing, and the arrow can feel the difference. Empty yourself of the prize, and the target will come back. We do the same, so often, in the things that matter most to us. The conversation we most want to go well is the one where we stammer. The night we most need to sleep is the night we lie rigid, watching the clock, aiming at sleep as if it were a target we could hit by wanting it harder. The archer's trouble is our own. His skill was never the problem. His grasping was the problem, the reaching for the outcome that pulled him out of the only place the shot could actually be made, which was here, now, with this breath, this bowstring, this single arrow. And here is the strange part, the part that turns the whole thing around. The harder we try to force a good outcome, the more we guarantee the trembling hand. It is not that we should stop caring. It is that we must learn to care about the target and let go of the fall. To give ourselves fully to the doing and open our hands around the getting. None of this asks us to become careless. It asks only that we stop aiming at the crowd. The piece the archer was missing was not out past the target where the gold was. It was in his own steady arm, which knew perfectly well how to shoot, and only needed him to stop interfering. Picture a person learning to float on their back in still water for the first time. Perhaps it was you, once, long ago. The teacher says, lie back, the water will hold you, and every instinct in the body screams that this is a lie, that the water will let you sink, and so you tense. You lift your head to check, you paddle your hands in little panic circles, and the moment you do, you begin to sink, and the sinking proves to you that you were right not to trust the water, and you fight harder and sink faster. And then, at some point, from exhaustion as much as courage, you stop. You let your head fall back. You let your arms go wide and loose. You let your belly rise. You stop trying to float, and in the instant you stop trying, you float. The water was always able to hold you. It was your fighting that pushed you under. The peace was in the letting go, not in the effort, and every ounce of effort you spent was effort spent drowning. This is the heart of it. This is the thing beneath all the stories tonight. Sleep is a floating. Peace is a floating. The stillness you are looking for is the water, and it has been holding you this whole time, and the only reason you have not felt held is that you have been thrashing, checking, lifting your head to make sure the peace is really there. Let your head fall back. The water knows how to do this. It has held every tired body that ever finally stopped fighting it, and it will hold yours. Let us pause here together for a moment. Let the breath rise and fall like the belly of the floating swimmer, without effort, without checking. Feel how the body is already being held, by the bed, by the floor, by the earth beneath the floor, all of it holding you up without any help from you. When you are ready, we will go on, gently, in no hurry at all. The Buddha taught that all things arise and pass, that nothing we can grasp will hold its shape, and that our suffering is stitched together mostly from the effort to make the passing stay. He called this impermanence, which is only a long word for a simple thing you have known your whole life, that the blossom opens and falls, that the tea grows cold, that the child grows tall, that every wave that rises must also, in its own time, return to the sea. We know this. And yet we build our peace on the sand right at the water's edge, and then we are astonished, over and over, when the tide comes in and takes it. The teaching is not that we should stop loving what passes, it is that we should stop demanding that it not pass, for that demand, and not the passing, is where the pain is made. There is a story of a woman crushed by grief, whose only child had died. Long ago, in the time of the Buddha, a young mother lost her small son, her only child, to a sudden fever, and her grief was so wild and so total that she would not accept it. She would not let them bury him. She carried the small, still body through the village in her arms, going from door to door, begging anyone she met, "Please, you must have some medicine. Give me the medicine that will make my son wake up." And the people drew back, some with pity, some with fear, for they could see the child was gone, and the mother was lost in a country beyond reason. At last, someone, moved by kindness, told her, "There is a teacher staying in the grove outside the town. They say he is the wisest of all. Perhaps he has the medicine you seek." And she ran to him, this ragged, hollow-eyed woman, with a dead child in her arms, and she fell at his feet and said, "They say you are wise. They say you can help me. Give me the medicine to bring my son back to life." And the Buddha did not tell her that her son was gone. He did not lecture her on impermanence. He looked at her with an ocean of tenderness, and he said, "I can help you. But first, I need something. Go into the town and bring me a handful of mustard seed. Only, the mustard seed must come from a house where no one has died, no one at all, not a child, not a parent, not a husband, not a wife. Bring me mustard seed from a house that death has never touched, and I will make the medicine." And the woman, wild with hope, ran into the town. She knocked at the first house and asked for mustard seed, and they gave it gladly, for mustard seed is a small and common thing. But as she turned to go, she remembered, and asked, "Has anyone died in this house?" And they said, "Oh yes. We lost our grandfather last spring, and before him a daughter, very young." And she set the seed down, for it would not do, and went to the next house. And there too, they gave her the seed gladly. And there too, when she asked, there was a death, a mother, a brother, a wife taken in childbirth. And she went to the next house, and the next, and the next, all through the town, from the poorest hut to the richest hall, and there was mustard seed in every one of them, freely given, and there was not one house, not one single door in all the town where death had not already been. And somewhere in that long afternoon of knocking, the wildness went out of her. Not because anyone argued her out of her grief, but because at every door she had met, her own sorrow wearing another face. The widow, the orphaned son, the old man who had buried his wife. The whole town quietly carrying the same weight she carried, and carrying it, and still setting out mustard seed, still sweeping their floors, still living. She had thought her grief set her apart, alone, singled out by a cruelty aimed only at her, and door by door she learned that she had walked, without knowing it, into the oldest and largest company in the world, the company of everyone who has ever loved a thing that passed. She went back at last to the grove in the evening, and she buried her son, and she sat down before the teacher, and she did not ask for the medicine again, because she had taken it at every door all afternoon. We do the same as that mother, though rarely so terribly. We believe our particular loss, our particular loneliness, our particular ache is a thing that has happened only to us, a sign that we alone were passed over for the easy life that everyone else seems to have. And so we suffer twice, once from the loss itself, and once from the bitter certainty that we suffer alone. The mother's medicine was not that her grief was wrong. Her grief was love with nowhere to go, and love is never wrong. Her medicine was the mustard seed, the discovery that every lit window in the dark holds someone who has carried what she carried. If we are honest, most of us have knocked on doors this way, comparing our hidden sorrow to everyone else's polished surface and coming up poor. But behind every surface is a house that death has visited, a heart that has broken, a person lying awake as you are lying awake now. You are not the exception. You are the company, and there is a strange and enormous comfort in that, the comfort of the mustard seed, that whatever you are carrying tonight, you carry it in the good and gentle company of nearly everyone who has ever lived, and they made it through the night, and so will you. Rest here a moment with me. You do not need to do anything with this. Let the breath come and go, soft as a hand smoothing a blanket. Feel the weight of your body sinking a little deeper into whatever holds you. When you are ready, we will continue on together, slowly, downward into the quiet. The Buddha once taught a lesson with a handful of salt, and it is one of the plainest and most useful pictures of peace ever given. He said, "Imagine you take a spoonful of salt and stir it into a small cup of water. Then you drink it. How does it taste? Bitter, undrinkable, all salt. Now imagine you take that same spoonful of salt, the very same amount, not 1 grain less, and you stir it into a wide, clear mountain lake. Then you cup your hands and drink from the lake. How does it taste now? Sweet, clean, hardly any salt at all. The salt has not changed. The trouble has not shrunk. What changed is the size of the vessel that received it, and then he said the thing that matters. So it is with a heart that has grown wide. The same sorrow that would poison a small and narrow heart is barely tasted by a heart that has become as large as a lake. This is a teaching you can almost feel in the body. When you are cramped, tired, cornered, made small by fear, every little trouble tastes like the whole cup. The unkind word, the small failure, the delay, the disappointment, each one bitter enough to ruin the whole day, because there is so little of you and so much of it. But the answer the Buddha gives is not to remove the salt. You cannot live a life with no salt in it. No one can. The attempt itself is a kind of madness. The answer is to become the lake, to widen, to make so much room inside yourself that the trouble, real as it is, has somewhere to dissolve. Stop being a cup. Become a lake. And here is the quiet miracle hidden in it. You do not become a lake by adding anything. You become a lake by letting go of the walls of the cup, the walls of me and mine, and this should not be happening to me until what was narrow simply opens, and there is room, at last, for the salt and the sweetness both. There is a story of 2 monks walking home to their monastery after a long journey. Long ago, an older monk and a younger one were making their way back along a muddy road after heavy rains, and they came to a place where a river had swollen over its banks, and the crossing was deep and fast. And there, at the edge of the water, stood a young woman, in fine silk clothes, well-dressed, clearly on her way to some important gathering, and she was distressed, for she could not cross without ruining her garments, and perhaps being swept away, and she did not know what to do. Now these 2 monks had taken a vow never to touch a woman, not so much as the brush of a sleeve, and the younger monk looked at her and looked away, and prepared to wade across alone. But the older monk walked straight up to the young woman, and without a word, he lifted her gently into his arms, and carried her across the rushing water, and set her down safely on the far bank, and she thanked him, and went her way. And the 2 monks walked on, but the younger monk could not let it go. A mile passed in silence, and then another, and his mind churned like the river had churned. 2 miles, 3, and at last, near evening, he could hold it no longer, and he burst out, "How could you do that? We have taken a vow. We are not to touch a woman, not ever. And you picked her up in your arms, and held her against you, and carried her across the river. How could you break the vow like that? I have been thinking about it for hours." And the old monk looked at him with a small, kind smile, and said, "Brother, I set that woman down on the riverbank 3 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? We do the same, all of us, more than we would ever wish to. The thing happened once. The argument, the insult, the mistake, the moment we wish had gone differently. And it happened for a minute, and then it was over. Set down on the far bank of the past. But we pick it up and carry it. We carry it for hours, for days, for years, replaying it, holding it against our chest, letting it soak us through, long after the river has been crossed. The younger monk's trouble is our own. The touching was not his burden. The touching lasted a moment and did no harm. His burden was the 3 hours of carrying, the endless private argument with a thing already finished. And here is the strange part. The old monk had touched the woman and was free, and the young monk had touched no one and was in chains, because it is never the event that binds us, it is the carrying. Tonight, whatever you have been carrying from today, or from a year ago, or from a decade ago, I want you to notice that you crossed that river long ago. You are allowed to set it down on the bank where it happened, and walk on into the evening with empty and open arms. It is already behind you. You are only holding it now out of habit, and habits, unlike rivers, can be let go. Let us breathe here together for a moment, and set something down. Feel your arms grow heavy and loose, as if they too were finally putting down a weight they had carried too long. There is nothing to hold right now. When you are ready, and there is no rush at all, we will go on. The old Taoist teacher Zhuangzi, who loved to laugh at the seriousness of anxious people, told a small story that has quieted more troubled minds than 1,000 lectures. Imagine, he said, that you are crossing a river in a small boat on a misty morning, and out of the fog another boat comes drifting toward you, and it strikes your boat hard so that you nearly fall in. And you look up, angry, ready to shout at the careless fool who rammed you, and you see that the other boat is empty. Just an old empty boat that slipped its rope upstream and drifted down on the current. And your anger, which a moment ago had someone to land on, has nowhere to go. It simply dissolves. You push the empty boat away and cross the river, and by the far bank you have forgotten it. Now Zhuangzi asks, why is it that the same collision, the very same bump and jolt and near fall, fills you with rage when there is a person in the other boat, and with nothing at all when the boat is empty? The blow is identical, only the story is different. This does not mean that people never wrong us. They do, and it matters. It means that so much of what torments us is not the collision itself, but the story we build around it, the intention we read into it, the assumption that the other boat was aimed at us, that the slight was meant, that the world is bumping us on purpose, and most of the boats that strike us in a day are empty boats. The driver who cut in front of you was not thinking of you at all. He did not know you existed. His boat slipped its rope on some trouble of his own far upstream. The friend who did not reply was drowning in her own current, not steering toward your hurt. The stranger who was short with you was carrying a grief you will never see. Nearly everyone who bumps against us is an empty boat, adrift on their own weather, and we spend our peace shouting at boats that were never rowed by anyone. Empty your own boat of the story, and the collision becomes what it always was, a bump on the water, already behind you, not worth carrying to the far shore. There is a teaching from Ajahn Chah, a forest monk of Thailand, who spoke in the plainest images, and who held up a glass of water one day to the monks around him. "You see this glass?" he said. "I love this glass. It holds the water admirably. When the sun strikes it, it reflects the light beautifully. When I tap it, it has a lovely ring. Yet for me, this glass is already broken, because I know that one day it will slip from my hand, or fall from the shelf, or be knocked from the table, and it will shatter. And so, when I understand that this glass is already broken, every moment I have with it is precious. When it finally breaks, I will say, "Of course," and I will feel no shock and no grief beyond the natural, because I have known all along that this is the nature of the glass. The glass is already broken. Say it softly to yourself. It is not a morbid thought. It is the most freeing thought there is. We do the same as a person clutching a glass they refuse to admit is fragile. We live as though the good things will stay, the people will stay, the health will stay, this exact arrangement of our life will stay, and so we half ignore it while it is here, saving our attention for the imaginary permanent future, and then we are shattered when the glass breaks, as glasses do. But the one who knows the glass is already broken holds it differently, more gently, more gratefully, more fully present to its ring and its light, precisely because they are not pretending it will last forever. This is not despair. It is the opposite of despair. It is what lets us love a thing wholeheartedly, and still, when the time comes, open our hand and let it go. Everyone you love is a glass already broken. So are you. And so this night, this breath, this quiet hour, is unspeakably precious, not in spite of the fact that it will pass, but because it will. None of this asks us to grieve what has not yet gone. It asks only that we hold what is here tonight with the tenderness of someone who knows how rare and brief it is. Let us rest again, here, in the middle of the quiet. Feel the breath, and feel how each breath, too, is a small thing that comes and is gone, given and released, without your holding. Let the body grow a little heavier, a little softer. When you are ready, we will continue, drifting gently down. Thich Nhat Hanh, the gentle teacher from Vietnam who taught the whole world to breathe, spoke often of a thing so simple that people almost missed it. That peace is not somewhere we go, but something we do, in the smallest actions, right where we are. He said that washing the dishes should be done not in order to have clean dishes, and not in order to be finished washing the dishes so that you can finally rest, but for its own sake, to be truly alive during the time you are washing them, the warm water on your hands, the weight of the bowl, the quiet of the task. If while washing the dishes we are only thinking of the tea we will drink afterward, hurrying to be done, then we are not alive during the dishwashing, and when we sit down at last with the tea, we will not be alive for the tea either, because our mind will already have run ahead to the next thing, and the next, forever. He said we are washed downstream by our own hurry, and never arrive anywhere, because the place we are hurrying to is always just a little further on, and peace, he taught, is simply arriving, being here, fully, for the one thing that is actually happening, which is the only place life has ever taken place. There is a story of a wealthy merchant who could not enjoy a single thing he owned. There once lived a man who had worked all his life to become rich, and at last he had a fine house, gardens, servants, chests of silver, everything he had labored for. And yet he was miserable, restless, unable to sleep, and he could not understand why, because he had done everything right and gotten everything he wanted. He went to a monk who lived simply in a hut at the edge of his lands, and he said, "I have everything, and I feel nothing. I own the finest garden in the province, and I have never once sat in it. I own the softest bed, and I lie awake. Tell me the secret. What do you have in this bare little hut with nothing in it, that I do not have in all my wealth?" And the monk poured him a cup of tea, and said, "Drink." And the merchant, impatient, gulped it down and set the cup aside and said, "There now, tell me." And the monk smiled and said, "Did you taste it?" And the merchant paused and realized he had not. He had drunk the tea while thinking of his question, and the tea was gone, and he could not have said whether it was bitter or sweet. "That," said the monk, "is your whole life. You did not taste the tea because you were already past it, reaching for the answer. You do not sit in your garden because while you are in it, you are thinking of your accounts. You do not sleep in your soft bed because while you lie in it, you are living tomorrow. You own everything and taste nothing because you are never where you are. I have less than you can imagine. This cup, this hut, this hour. But I am here for all of it. I taste every cup of tea I drink. And so a single cup of tea is richer to me than all your silver, because I am actually present to receive it, and you, my friend, are always somewhere else. And he poured a second cup, and said, Try again. This time, be here. There is nowhere else you need to go. And the merchant held the warm cup, and felt its warmth, and smelled it, and drank slowly, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he tasted the tea, and his eyes filled, for reasons he could not have explained, except that he had come home to a place he had never left. We do the same as that merchant, if we are honest, nearly every day. We drink the tea while planning the next thing. We hold the child while checking the time. We walk through the evening rehearsing the morning. We lie down to rest while living tomorrow's worries in advance. We own our lives and taste almost none of them, because we are hardly ever in the room where our life is actually happening. The merchant's trouble is our own. His wealth was real, and it was not the problem. His absence was the problem. The way his mind was always one step ahead of his body, reaching, never arriving. And here is the strange part. The peace he was searching for so hard, in monks and teachers and secrets, was in the tea he had already been handed and failed to taste. It was in every cup of every ordinary day, waiting for him to simply be there when he drank it. It is in your breath right now, this one, the one you are breathing as you hear these words. You do not have to go anywhere to find peace. You have to stop going for one moment and arrive. Let us pause here and arrive together. Do not reach for the next breath. Let it come to you. Do not reach for sleep. Let it come to you in its own time. Feel the warmth of your own body, the quiet weight of it, here, now, the only place you have ever been. When you are ready, we will go on, softer and slower than before. Lao Tzu asked a question that goes to the very center of tonight. He asked, Who can remain still while the muddy water clears? Who has the patience to wait, without stirring, until the sediment settles on its own, and the water grows clear again? Think of a jar of water taken from a stream, cloudy, full of swirling silt, so that you cannot see through it at all. There is nothing you can do with your hands to make it clear. If you reach in to grab the mud, you only stir it worse. If you shake the jar to hurry it, it clouds further. There is only one thing that clears muddy water, and it is the one thing our restless minds find hardest of all: stillness, time, leaving it alone. Set the jar down and do nothing, and wait. And slowly, grain by grain, in its own time, the mud sinks, and the water above grows clear, and at last you can see straight through to the bottom, and it was clear water all along, only troubled. Your mind tonight is that jar. You cannot grab the clarity with your hands. You cannot force the settling. You can only set yourself down, gently, and stop stirring, and trust the oldest law there is, that mud, left alone, sinks, that water, left alone, clears, that a mind, left alone, grows quiet, in its own time, without your help. There is a story from Mencius, the old teacher of ancient China, about a foolish farmer who could not bear to wait for his rice to grow. There once lived a man who planted his rice in the spring, and every day he went out to the paddy to look at it, and every day it seemed to him that the young green shoots had not grown at all, or hardly at all, and this filled him with impatience and worry. They are so slow, he said. They are lazy. They are not trying hard enough. And one evening, unable to stand it any longer, he waded out into the paddy, and one by one, he took each young rice shoot between his fingers and gently pulled it upward, just a little, to help it along, to give it a head start, so that it would stand taller and grow faster. And it took him all day, hundreds and hundreds of shoots, and he came home at nightfall, utterly exhausted, but pleased with himself. And he said to his family, I am worn out. I have been helping the rice to grow all day. Every single shoot now stands taller than it did this morning. And his son, alarmed, ran out to the field at first light, and found every shoot wilted, yellowing, dying, their tender roots torn from the soil by the pulling. In trying to hurry the growth, he had killed the crop. We do the same. so gently and so constantly that we do not even notice we are doing it. We pull at the shoots of our own lives, our own healing, our own peace, impatient with how slowly they come. We decide we should be over the grief by now, calmer by now, wiser by now, further along by now, and we yank at ourselves, we force, we shame the tender green thing for not standing taller, and in the forcing, we tear the roots. The farmer's trouble is our own. His rice was growing perfectly well. Growth is slow and quiet and invisible from one day to the next, and that is not a flaw in the rice, it is the nature of growing. And here is the strange part, the shoots did not need his help, they needed only his patience, his willingness to let them do in their own time the one thing they already knew how to do. You are growing tonight, in ways you cannot see, the way the rice grows in the dark. You do not have to pull, you do not have to hurry your own becoming. There is nothing to force here. Let the shoots stand in the quiet water and grow, in their own time, without you tearing at them to prove they are trying. Let us rest a little while here, in the dark and the quiet, and let ourselves simply grow, unhurried, unpulled. Feel the slow tide of the breath. Feel how little you have to do for it. When you are ready, and only then, we will go on together. Now we come to a teaching that is the very heart of the title we began with, the strangest and most freeing turn of all, and it is an old picture the Zen teachers loved, the man searching everywhere for the ox that he is, at that very moment, riding. Picture a farmer who owns a single ox, and one morning he cannot find it. He looks in the barn, empty. He looks in the field, gone, and he grows frantic, and he sets out searching the whole countryside, over the hills and down the valleys, calling for his ox, asking every traveler he meets, "Have you seen my ox? I have lost my ox, and I cannot find it anywhere." And he searches all day, growing more and more desperate, more and more exhausted. And the whole time, the entire day, he is sitting astride the ox's broad, warm back, riding it up and down the hills, using its very strength to carry him on his search for it. He is looking for the thing that is carrying him. He is exhausted from riding, in search of the very animal he rides. Sit with that, quietly, for it is you, and it is me, and it is the ache we named at the very beginning of this night. You are searching for peace. You have searched for years, perhaps, over every hill of self-improvement, down every valley of striving, asking every teacher and every book, "Have you seen it? Where is the peace? I have lost it, and I cannot find it anywhere." And the whole time, the very thing you are searching for is the thing doing the searching. The awareness that is looking for calm is itself already calm, underneath the looking. The one who longs for stillness is, in their deepest nature, already still. It is only the frantic searching that hides it. The way the farmer's own galloping up and down the hills was the only thing keeping him from noticing the steady, warm strength beneath him the entire time. The one searching for peace is peace itself. He does not need to find the ox. He needs to stop and get down and feel what has been carrying him all along. There is an old story of a monk who spent 40 years in this exact search, and how it ended. There once lived a monk who entered the monastery as a young man, burning to attain enlightenment, to find the great peace the sutras promised, and he threw himself into the search with everything he had. He meditated until dawn. He studied every text. He sought out every teacher. He climbed to remote mountain hermitages and sat in freezing caves. And decade after decade, the peace did not come, or came only in flashes and slipped away. And he grew old, and his back bent, and his knees failed him, and still he searched, more and more tired, more and more sure that the great awakening was just beyond the next teacher, the next practice, the next mountain. And one evening, an old man now, worn down to almost nothing, he was walking back to his hut, too tired even to search anymore, too tired to strive, empty of every technique and every hope. He had given up, not in despair exactly, he was simply too exhausted to keep reaching. And in that moment, walking the plain path home with an empty and quiet mind, he heard a small stone, kicked by his own worn sandal, strike a stalk of bamboo by the path, with a single clear sound: talk. And in that ordinary sound, in the total quiet of a mind that had finally stopped searching, he understood. He laughed out loud, alone on the path in the dusk, and tears ran down his face. 40 years he had searched for the ox, and it had been carrying him the whole time. The peace had never been anywhere but here, in the one who was looking. He had only been too busy looking to notice. And when the younger monks asked him, later, what he had found on the path that night, he could not really tell them, because there was nothing to find. That was the whole of it. I searched for 40 years, he told them, and on the last night, I learned that the searching was the only thing in the way. I was like a man holding a lit lantern, going door to door in the dark, asking everyone I met if they had seen the light. The light I was carrying was the very light I could not find, because I was looking everywhere except at my own hand. We do the same, all of us, and there is no shame in it. The searching is honest, the longing is real, and it is the longing itself that finally, when it wears out, sets us down. The monk's 40 years were not wasted. They were the long road by which he was carried, exhausted, to the one place he could finally sit still. And here is the strange part, the gentlest joke at the center of everything. You cannot fail to be what you already are. You cannot lose the ox you are riding. You cannot search your way out of the peace that is doing the searching. All you can do, in the end, is grow tired enough of looking to notice what was underneath you the entire time. And there is no better place to grow that tired than here, in the dark, at the end of a long day, with nothing left to reach for. Let us rest here together, and stop searching, if only for the length of a few breaths. There is nothing to find tonight, nothing to attain. You are already what you were looking for. Feel the breath carry you, the way the ox carried the farmer, without your effort, without your asking. When you are ready, we will go gently on. The Buddha gave a teaching about arrows that goes straight into the ordinary suffering of an ordinary night. He said that when an unwelcome thing happens to us, a pain, a loss, a harsh word, it is as if we are struck by an arrow, and it hurts, as arrows do, and that first hurt is simply part of being alive in a body and a world. That is the first arrow, and no one escapes the first arrow. The wise and the foolish alike feel pain. But then, he said, most of us pick up a second arrow, and with our own hand we drive it into the same wound. And the second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the story we tell about the pain. It is the why me, the this should not have happened, the replaying, the resentment, the fear that it will come again, the anger at ourselves for being hurt. The first arrow was fired by the world, the second arrow we fire into ourselves. And he said the second arrow, the one we shoot ourselves, causes far more suffering than the first ever did. Think of a night you could not sleep. The first arrow is simple. You are awake, and the body is tired, and that is uncomfortable. That is all. But then comes the second arrow, and the third, and the 10th. I have to sleep or tomorrow will be ruined. Why can't I sleep? Something must be wrong with me. Everyone else is asleep. I'll never get to sleep at this rate. I always do this. And it is not the wakefulness that tortures you. It is the whole hail of arrows you fire into your own wakefulness, each one making the next more certain. This does not mean the first arrow does not hurt. It means we can, with practice and with gentleness, learn to feel the first arrow and set down the second, to let the pain be pain, simple and clean, without the whole burning story we usually wrap around it. To be awake without the war on being awake. To be sad without being ashamed of the sadness. To feel the thing and stop there and not reach for the second arrow at all. There is a story of a student who came to a teacher complaining that he suffered too much. There once was a young man who went to a wise old woman who lived at the edge of the village, and he sat down heavily and said, "I feel everything too much. When something goes wrong, I am destroyed by it. My neighbor lost far more than I did last year, and yet he is calm, and I am in pieces over so much less. What is wrong with me? How do I stop feeling the pain?" And the old woman said, "You cannot stop feeling the pain, and you should not want to. The pain is your heart working as it was made to work. But come, let me show you something." And she took 2 cups, and into each, she put a spoonful of something bitter, and into the first cup she poured only a little water, and into the second she poured a great deal, until it was full and wide. "Drink the first," she said, and he did, and he grimaced, for it was bitter and sharp. "Now the second," and he drank, and it was mild, hardly bitter at all. "The bitterness in both cups is the same," she said. "That is the first arrow, and it comes to everyone. But your neighbor is a wide cup, and you, right now, are a narrow one, and it is not because he feels less. It is because he has stopped adding the second bitterness, the story, the fighting, the why me, that shrinks the cup down small around the pain. Widen, and the same sorrow will taste of almost nothing, not because you have hardened, because you have made room." We do the same as that young man, drinking every sorrow from the narrowest cup, adding to each real pain a whole second pain made entirely of our resistance to the first. Someone is short with us, and the sharp word is the first arrow, over in a second. But then we carry it home, and turn it over, and wonder what we did wrong, and grow angry, and rehearse what we should have said, and lie awake with it, firing arrow after arrow into a wound that would have closed on its own by evening. The young man's trouble is our own. His feeling was not the problem, his feeling was his heart, alive and working. The second arrow was the problem. And here is the strange part. The way to suffer less is not to feel less, but to fight the feeling less, to let the first arrow land and not reach for the quiver. Tonight, whatever ache you brought to this bed, see if you can let it simply be the first arrow, clean and bearable, and set down the second one you were about to fire. You do not have to make a war out of what you feel. You can let it be what it is, and let it move through you, and pass, the way all things pass, in their own time. Let us pause and breathe here together. Let whatever you are feeling be exactly what it is, without the second arrow, without the war, just this breath, just this quiet, just this body growing heavier and softer in the dark. When you are ready, we will go on, downward, gentler still. The old Zen master Dogen, who lived 8 centuries ago in Japan and wrote some of the most beautiful and difficult words ever set down about the mind, gave us a line that seems at first to be a riddle and turns out to be a doorway. He said that to study the way is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self, and to forget the self is to be at one with all things. Hear it slowly, for it is the whole journey in a single breath. We begin by turning inward, honestly, to look at who we are. That is the study of the self, and it is where every seeker starts. But the deeper we look, the more we find that this self we were so sure of, this hard little knot of me and mine that we have been defending and polishing and worrying over our whole lives, is not so solid as we thought. It is more like a wave than a stone, a shape the water takes for a while, real enough, but not separate from the sea. And when that hard knot loosens, when the self is, for a moment, forgotten, something opens. We are no longer a small thing, pressed up against a vast and threatening world. We are simply part of it, at home in it, one wave among the waves, held by the same sea that holds everything. This is not a loss. This is the opposite of loss. So much of our suffering comes from the exhausting work of being a separate self, defending it, comparing it, worrying whether it is good enough, keeping it safe from a world that seems to be on the other side of a wall. And the wall was never real. Dogen is telling us the wall was never real. To forget the self, even for the space of a single quiet breath, is to feel the wall dissolve and to rest, at last, in belonging. To feel that you are not a stranger in the universe who must fight for a little scrap of peace, but a part of the whole thing, made of the same stuff as the stars and the water and the sleeping child, held exactly as they are held. The peace you have been seeking as a possession for your separate self is found the moment the separateness softens, and you remember you were never separate at all. There is a story of a wave, far out in the ocean, afraid of the shore. Picture a single wave, rolling in across the wide sea toward the coast, and as it comes closer and begins to see the other waves ahead of it, crashing against the rocks and breaking into white foam and vanishing, it grows terrified. "That is my fate," the little wave says. "I am rushing toward my own destruction. In a moment I will strike the shore and be shattered into nothing. How terrible, how frightening. Why must I break and disappear? And the wave trembles and wishes it could stop, could turn back, could be anything but a wave hurrying to its end. And beside it rolls a larger, older wave, calm and unafraid. And the older wave says, "Little one, why are you so frightened?" And the small wave says, "Can't you see? We are going to crash and be destroyed. Look ahead, all the waves vanishing into foam. That is what waits for us." And the old wave says, gently, "Ah, it is because you think you are a wave that you are afraid. But you are not only a wave, you are the ocean." The wave is just a shape the ocean is making for a little while. When the shape ends, the water does not end. It sinks back and rises again as another wave, and another, forever. You will not be destroyed on that shore. You will only stop pretending you were ever separate from the sea. You are the water. You always were. The breaking is not your death. It is your homecoming. We do the same as that little wave, trembling all our lives at the thought of our own breaking, clinging to the small shape we call me, as though it were the whole of what we are, terrified of the shore. But we are not only the wave, we are the sea, taking the shape of a wave for the brief, bright span of a life, and the water we are made of is older than the shape and will outlast it, rising again and again in forms we cannot imagine. The little wave's trouble is our own, the trouble of forgetting that we are the ocean and mistaking ourselves for the momentary shape it makes. And here is the strange part. The peace we cannot find as a lonely, breakable wave is simply there, always, the instant we remember we are the water. You are not a small, frightened thing that must somehow win peace before the shore arrives. You are already the sea, and the sea is already at peace, holding every wave, breaking none of them, losing nothing. Tonight, as you let go toward sleep, you can let the wave shape soften a little and feel, underneath it, the wide, calm water that you have been all along. Let us rest here together, wave and sea, and breathe. Feel yourself held by something far larger than the small shape of your worries. Feel the breath rise and fall like a swell far out on a calm ocean. When you are ready, and there is all the time in the world, we will go gently on. Shunryu Suzuki, a Zen teacher who carried this old wisdom to the West and spoke it with great simplicity, gave us a phrase that has quieted countless anxious minds. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. He called it beginner's mind, the mind that meets each thing freshly, without the heavy weight of all our opinions and expectations and old conclusions, the way a small child meets a thing for the first time, with open wonder rather than tired certainty. The expert, he said, has closed most of the doors. The expert already knows, and because he already knows, he cannot really see. His knowing stands between him and the living thing in front of him. But the beginner still has every door open. And peace, Suzuki taught, lives in that openness, in coming to this breath, this moment, this night, as though we had never seen it before, setting down the heavy bag of everything we think we already know about how it will go and how we will feel and what it all means. Think of how differently a child and a tired adult stand in the rain. The child has never solved the rain. The rain is astonishing to the child, cold and silver and alive, something to hold up their hands to and laugh at. The adult has long since filed the rain away under inconvenience and hurries through it, head down, seeing nothing, already somewhere else. The rain is the same rain, but one of them is alive to it, and one of them is not, and the difference is only the weight of old conclusions. We grow expert at our own lives, expert at our own suffering most of all. I already know how this goes. I already know I can't sleep. I already know how tomorrow will feel. And our expertise closes the doors that a beginner's mind would leave wide open. To meet the night as a beginner is to admit, softly, that you do not actually know how it will go, that this breath has never been breathed before, that even sleep, tonight, might come in a way it never has. There is a freedom in not knowing, a lightness in setting down the expert. You do not have to have your life figured out to rest in it. In fact, the figuring is half of what keeps you awake. There is a story of a learned scholar who visited a Zen teacher to be told how wise he already was. There once came to a small mountain temple a scholar of great reputation who had studied the sacred texts for 30 years and could recite them by heart and debate any point of doctrine, and he came, in truth, not to learn, but to be admired, to show the simple monk how much he knew. And the old teacher received him kindly and said, "You have come a long way. Let us have tea." And he seated the scholar and brought out a pot and a cup, and the scholar, unable to wait, began at once to pour out his learning, everything he knew, every text he had mastered, every teacher he had studied under, filling the air with his knowledge, the way a jar fills with water. And the old teacher listened and nodded and began to pour the tea into the scholar's cup, and he poured, and the cup filled, and he kept pouring, and the tea rose to the brim and overflowed, and spilled across the table, and dripped onto the floor, and still the old man calmly poured. "Stop," cried the scholar. "The cup is full. It can hold no more. The tea is spilling everywhere." And the old teacher set down the pot and looked at him with quiet eyes, and said, "You are like this cup. You are so full of your 30 years, so full of what you already know, that there is no room in you for anything new. You did not come here to learn. You came here full. Before I can pour you a single drop of what you are truly seeking, you must first empty your cup." We do the same, all of us, though few of us have studied 30 years. We come to each new moment already full of our conclusions about it, so full that nothing fresh can get in, and then we wonder why life feels stale, why the rain no longer astonishes, why peace, which is always new and always here, cannot seem to find a way into us. The scholar's trouble is our own. His learning was not the problem. A full cup of knowledge is a fine thing. The problem was that he had forgotten how to be empty, how to not know, how to meet a thing without immediately covering it over with everything he already thought. And here is the strange part. The peace he was seeking could not be added to him because he had no room. It could only be received by an empty cup, a beginner's mind, a heart willing, for one moment, to know nothing at all. Tonight, you are allowed to empty the cup. You are allowed to not know how you will sleep, not know how tomorrow will go, not know the answer to the thing that has been turning in you all day. Set it all down and be a beginner, and let the night pour something new into the space where your certainty used to be. Let us pause here and empty the cup a little, together. Let go of everything you think you know about this night. Let the breath come, as if it were the first breath you had ever taken. Feel the body soften around all that not knowing. When you are ready, we will go on, slower now, toward the deep quiet. There is one more teaching to hold before we begin our long descent into sleep, and it is the oldest and simplest of all, spoken by the Buddha in the Dhammapada, the collection of his sayings that has been carried in the heart for 25 centuries. He said that hatred is never ended by hatred, but by love alone, that this is an ancient and unending law. And he said, in that same collection, a thing even nearer to tonight, that the one who has quieted the restless mind, who has stilled the endless wanting, rests as peacefully as a deep lake, clear and undisturbed. He did not say the peaceful one has no troubles. He said their mind has grown still, like deep water, and in still deep water, even the greatest storm on the surface cannot reach the calm below. There is a stillness in you that is deeper than any trouble of the day. The waves live only on the surface. Go down far enough in any ocean, and you reach a place that no storm has ever touched, that has been still since the beginning of the world, and it is not somewhere far away. It is directly beneath the very waves that frighten you, the same water, only deeper. There is a story of a king who could not quiet his mind, and the gift a servant gave him. There once ruled a king who had everything a king could have, and yet at night his mind would not rest. It churned with the cares of the kingdom, with fears and plans and grievances, and he could not sleep, and no physician could help him. And one night, wandering his palace unable to lie still, he came upon an old servant, a man who tended the stables and slept on straw and owned almost nothing, and the servant was sleeping soundly on his bed of hay. his face utterly peaceful, a small smile upon it, sleeping the deep sweet sleep the king would have given his crown to taste. And the king woke him, half in wonder, half in envy, and said, "How is this? I have silk sheets and guards at every door, and everything a man could wish, and I cannot sleep. You have a bed of straw, and the cold coming through the walls, and nothing to your name, and you sleep like a child. Tell me your secret." And the old servant rubbed his eyes and thought, and said, "Majesty, I have no secret. It is only that when the day is done, I am done with it. I set down the horses, and the hay, and the work, all of it, at the door, and I do not carry any of it to my bed. My bed is only for sleeping. But you, Majesty, forgive me. You carry the whole kingdom to your pillow every night, and you try to sleep on top of it, and no man can sleep on such a heap. Set the kingdom down at the door. It will still be there in the morning. It does not need you to hold it all night. Nothing does. We do the same as that sleepless king nearly every night. We carry the whole weight of our days to our beds, the unfinished tasks, the worries about money, the conversation that went wrong, the thing we must remember to do tomorrow, and we pile it all on the pillow and try to lie down on top of the heap, and then we wonder why sleep will not come. The king's trouble is our own, and it is the trouble this whole night has been about, the carrying, the holding, the refusal to set down. And here is the strange part, the gentlest truth of all. The kingdom does not need you tonight. Whatever it is you are carrying, it does not need to be held through the dark. It will keep. It will still be there, waiting, in the morning, and you will meet it then, rested and whole. But it does not need you now. Nothing needs you now, in this hour, except your own tired body, which needs only that you finally set everything down at the door, and come, empty-handed, to your bed, which is only for sleeping. Set the kingdom down. It will still be there in the morning, and it can wait for you there. It always has. Let us rest here now, and begin, gently, to set the kingdom down. Feel the breath, slow and deep, like the still water far beneath the storm. There is nothing left to carry. When you are ready, we will go on together, slower still, deeper into the quiet. The Buddha once gave a teaching about a raft, and it is a teaching for anyone who has ever held on too long to the very thing that once saved them. Imagine, he said, a traveler who comes to a wide and dangerous river, and on the near bank there is fear and difficulty, and on the far bank there is safety and peace. But there is no bridge, and there is no boat. So the traveler gathers branches and reeds and grasses and binds them together into a raft, and working hard, paddling with his hands and feet, he crosses the river safely to the far shore. Now the Buddha asked, what should the traveler do with the raft? Should he think, this raft has served me so well, it carried me across the great river, it saved my life. I am so grateful to it that I will lift it onto my shoulders and carry it with me everywhere I go for the rest of my days. And the answer, of course, is no. However good the raft was, however truly it served him, to carry it on his back over dry land for the rest of his life would be foolishness. The wise traveler is grateful, and he sets the raft down at the water's edge, and he walks on, free, into the country beyond. And then the Buddha said, the thing that makes the story more than a story. He said, even my teachings are like this raft. They are for crossing over, not for holding on to. Even the truest words, even the finest wisdom, even the practices that carried you safely through the hardest waters of your life, they are meant to be used and then set down, not clutched, not turned into one more heavy thing to carry. This is a rare and precious kind of humility, that a teacher would tell his students not to cling, even to what he gave them. Because we do this so often, we find a thing that helped us once, a rule, a belief, a way of coping, a hard shell we grew in a hard season, and it truly did carry us across. And so out of gratitude and fear, we keep carrying it, up onto dry land, for years, for decades, long after the river is behind us, until the very thing that saved us has become the weight that bends our back. There is a story of a man who kept the walls of a prison he had already left. There once was a man who was locked away for many years in a small stone cell, and to survive, he learned to make himself small, to expect little, to guard his heart against hope, to trust no one, to keep his eyes down and his voice quiet. And these hard habits kept him alive through the long years, and he was right to grow them, for the prison was real. And then, one day, at last, the door was opened, and he was free, and he walked out of the prison gates into the wide green world. But he carried the cell with him. He still made himself small in rooms that had no walls. He still guarded his heart against a world that was no longer trying to break it. He still kept his eyes down before people who wished him well. He still slept curled tight in the corner of a bed large enough to stretch out in. He was free, and he lived as a prisoner because he had never set down the raft that carried him across. And an old woman who took him in saw this, and one evening she said, gently, "Child, the door is open. It has been open a long time. The habits that kept you alive in that place are killing you slowly out here. You do not have to guard yourself anymore. You do not have to be small anymore. You cross the river. You can set the raft down now. You can come all the way out." We do the same, nearly all of us. We carry the walls of prisons we left long ago, the hard shells we grew in childhood, or in grief, or in some difficult year. The caution that once protected us, and now only keeps us from the warmth we could have. The man's trouble is our own. The habits were not a failure, they were a raft, and they carried him truly across dark water, and he was right to build them. But the river is behind him now, and here is the strange part. Freedom was not something he had to travel further to find. The door had been open all along. He only had to notice that he was no longer in the cell, and set down the weight he no longer needed to carry, and stand up to his full height in the open air. Tonight, is there a raft you are still carrying on dry land? A guardedness that once kept you safe, and now only keeps you tired? You are allowed to set it down. You crossed that river long ago. The door is open. You can come all the way out and rest. Let us pause here together and set down a raft or two, gently, with gratitude. Feel the breath. Feel how little you need to carry into this night. When you are ready, we will go on, slower and softer, deeper into the dark. There is a very old story, told in many lands, of a man hanging from a vine and a single wild strawberry, and it holds within it the whole secret of finding sweetness in an imperfect and impermanent life. Picture a traveler walking across a high plain who suddenly comes upon a tiger, and to escape it, he climbs down over the edge of a cliff, clinging to a vine that grows out of the rock face, dangling there halfway down. Above him, the tiger paces at the cliff's edge, waiting. Below him, far down at the bottom of the ravine, another tiger has appeared, looking up, waiting. And as he hangs there between them, he notices two small mice, one white and one black, and they have begun to gnaw, quietly, at the very vine he is holding on to, so that he knows it will not hold much longer. "This is the whole of a human life," the old one said, "hung between the past we cannot return to and the future we cannot escape. The days and nights gnawing quietly at the vine that holds us. And in that moment, hanging there, the traveler sees, growing from a crack in the rock just within his reach, a single wild strawberry, red and ripe and perfect. And he reaches out with one hand and he plucks it and he puts it in his mouth, and it is delicious. Sit with that a moment, for it is not the grim story it first seems. It is one of the most tender teachings there is. The tigers are real. The mice are real. The vine will not hold forever. It never does, for anyone, and none of that changes the one thing that matters, which is that in this moment, right now, there is a strawberry, and it is sweet, and it is yours to taste. The old ones were not telling us to despair at the tigers. They were telling us the opposite, that even here, even hung between all our fears, with time gnawing quietly at the vine, this present moment is still full of small, perfect sweetnesses freely given, and the only question is whether we will taste them or spend the whole moment staring up at the tiger. The strawberry is this breath. The strawberry is the warmth of your bed tonight. The strawberry is the quiet, the softness, the simple animal comfort of a body at rest. The tigers will still be there, whether you taste it or not. So taste it. We do the same as that traveler, though most of us forget the strawberry entirely and stare only at the tigers, spending our one precious present moment consumed with the past we are falling away from and the future rushing up to meet us, deaf and blind to the sweetness that is, right now, within reach of our hand. If we are honest, most of us have lain in a warm bed on a quiet night and felt nothing of its warmth or its quiet, because our minds were up on the cliff edge with the tiger of tomorrow. The traveler's trouble is our own. And here is the strange part. The sweetness does not require that the tigers go away. It never did. The strawberry is sweet precisely there, in the middle of the danger, in the middle of the impermanence, offered freely to anyone willing to taste it instead of bracing against the fall. Tonight, let the tigers pace. Let time gnaw softly at the vine, as it does for everyone, as it always has. And reach out and taste the strawberry of this quiet hour, this breath, this rest. For it is sweet, and it is here, and it is yours. Let us rest here a little while, and taste the sweetness of simply lying still. Feel the breath, and the warmth, and the quiet. There is a small perfect sweetness in this very moment. When you are ready, we will go on together, gently. There is an old story of the blind men and the elephant, and it is a story about how small our certainties are, and how much lighter we could hold them. Long ago, a king gathered several men who had been blind from birth, who had never seen an elephant, and he had an elephant brought before them, and he asked each of them to touch it and say what it was. And the first man reached out and took hold of the elephant's leg, thick and round and rough, and he said, "Ah, now I understand. An elephant is exactly like a great pillar or the trunk of a tree." And the second man took hold of the tail, thin and tufted, and he said, "No, no, you are quite wrong. An elephant is like a rope or a frayed piece of cord." And the third man laid his hands on the broad flat side of the great animal, and he said, "You are both mistaken. An elephant is plainly like a wall." And the fourth grasped the smooth curving tusk and said it was like a spear, and the fifth held the swaying trunk and said it was like a thick snake, and the sixth felt the wide flapping ear and said it was like a great fan. And each of them was completely certain, and each of them began to argue, and the arguing grew heated, for each had touched the elephant with his own hands and knew, beyond all doubt, that he was right, and every one of them was right about the part he held, and every one of them was wrong about the whole. The king, watching, laughed softly, not unkindly, and said, "Each of you has touched one part of the truth and mistaken it for the whole truth, and that is why you quarrel. This is not a story about blindness of the eyes. It is a story about all of us, who reach out and take hold of one part of a vast and living reality, one part of a person, one part of a situation, one part of our own selves, and mistake the part we happen to be holding for the whole of what is real. We do it constantly. We meet a person on their worst day and decide we know who they are. We touch one hard part of our own life and conclude that the whole of it, and the whole of us, is that hard shape. We are each of us, holding the tail, insisting the elephant is a rope, and defending it with all our heart. We do the same, all of us, and there is a deep peace in finally admitting it, that whatever we are certain of tonight, we are almost surely holding only one part of a truth far larger than our two hands can reach. The blind men's trouble is our own. Their certainty was not wicked, it was honest. They truly felt what they felt. But it was partial, and they mistook the part for the whole, and the mistaking made them miserable and quarrelsome over a thing that was, all along, simply an elephant. And here is the strange part. The moment you loosen your grip on your one certainty, the moment you say, softly, "I am holding only a part, I do not see the whole thing grows lighter and larger and kinder. The situation that seemed a disaster is one leg of an elephant you cannot yet see the shape of. The verdict you passed on yourself is one tuft of a tail. Tonight, you do not have to be certain about anything, not about how tomorrow will go, not about what today finally meant, not even about who you are. You can hold your certainties as lightly as a hand resting open on a great warm living side, and let the whole vast truth of things be far larger and gentler than anything you could grip. And in that not knowing, that loosening, there is rest. Let us pause here and loosen our grip a little, together. Let go of needing to know. Let the breath come and go. Let the body grow heavier and softer. When you are ready, we will go on, slower now, deeper into the quiet dark. Zhuangzi, the laughing sage, once fell asleep and dreamed he was a butterfly. He dreamed he was a butterfly fluttering here and there among the flowers, drifting on the warm air, doing exactly as a butterfly does, knowing nothing at all of being a man named Zhuangzi, perfectly content, perfectly a butterfly. And then he woke, and there he was, unmistakably Zhuangzi, a man lying on his mat. But then he sat up, and a strange and wonderful question came to him, and he could not answer it, and he did not want to. Was I, he asked, a man who dreamed that I was a butterfly, or am I now a butterfly, dreaming that I am a man? And instead of being troubled by this, instead of grasping for certainty, he smiled, because he saw that the not knowing was itself a kind of freedom, that if he could not be entirely sure which was the dream and which the dreamer, then perhaps he had been holding on too tightly to the small, solid idea of exactly who and what he was. This is not a riddle meant to confuse us. It is a loosening. So much of our tiredness comes from the effort of maintaining a fixed and solid self. This is who I am. This is my story. These are my flaws. This is what happened to me. This is what I must defend and prove and protect. We carry that self around like a heavy statue, day and night, terrified of any crack in it. And Zhuangzi, waking gently from his butterfly dream, is offering us the lightest and kindest of gifts, the permission to hold even our own identity a little more loosely, to smile at the mystery of it, to admit that we do not entirely know what we are, and that this is not a terror, but a freedom. The butterfly did not worry about being Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi did not need to be certain he was not the butterfly, and in the space between, in the soft not knowing, there was a lightness that no fixed and defended self can ever feel. We do the same as a person clutching a heavy statue of themselves through a long day, carrying the weight of who we think we must be, defending our story, unable to set it down even in sleep. But you are more like a dream than a statue, more like a butterfly on the warm air than a thing carved in stone, a flowing, changing, living process, not a fixed and finished object that must be guarded. And here is the strange part. It is a relief, a deep and unexpected relief, to hold yourself this lightly. You do not have to be certain, tonight, of who you are. You do not have to defend your story to the dark. You can let the heavy statue of yourself soften and grow light, like a butterfly, like a dream, and drift on the warm air of the breath, content, needing to prove nothing, needing to be nothing in particular at all. Tonight, as you sink toward sleep, you can let go even of yourself, not lose yourself, but hold yourself gently, the way you would cup a butterfly in open hands, never closing them. Let us rest here a moment and hold ourselves lightly, together. Let the heavy statue soften. Let the breath drift like a butterfly on warm air. When you are ready, and there is no hurry, we will go on, deeper and softer still. There is one last picture to hold before we gather everything together, and it comes from the way the old Zen teachers watched the winter forest. In the mountains where the snow falls heavy and wet, they noticed a difference between the great rigid oak and the slender bamboo. When the snow comes and piles upon the branches, heavier and heavier through the long night, the mighty oak, strong and proud and unbending, holds firm and holds until the weight becomes too great, and with a terrible crack, a great limb breaks and falls, torn from the tree, splitting the very strength that would not yield. But the bamboo, slender and supple, does not fight the snow. As the weight gathers on it, the bamboo bends lower and lower, gracefully, quietly, giving way, until it bends so far that the snow simply slides off and falls to the ground, and the bamboo, unburdened, springs lightly back up, whole and green and unbroken, exactly as it was. The oak resists and breaks. The bamboo yields and survives. Force loses what softness keeps. Lao Tzu saw this same truth everywhere he looked. The hard and the stiff, he said, are the companions of death. The soft and the yielding are the companions of life. The new green shoot is soft and bends in the wind. The dead branch is stiff and snaps. The living tongue is soft and outlasts the hard teeth that wear away and fall. Everywhere, it is the yielding thing that endures and the rigid thing that breaks. And yet we so often admire the oak in ourselves, the refusal to bend, the standing firm against all weight, the strength that will not give an inch. And we mistake our rigidity for strength, when it is only the thing that will one day crack under a load we could have simply let slide off. To bend is not to be weak, to yield is not to be defeated. The bamboo is not broken by the snow, because the bamboo does not argue with the snow. We do the same as that proud oak, so much of the time, standing rigid against the weight of our days, refusing to bend, gathering more and more onto our stiff, unyielding branches, mistaking our refusal to give way for strength, until we crack under a load that a more yielding heart would simply have let slide off into the dark. The oak's trouble is our own. Its strength was real. It was not weakness that broke it, but the very unwillingness to bend. And here is the strange part. The way to carry a heavy weight is often not to brace harder against it, but to soften, to bend, to let it slide off you, rather than pile upon you. Tonight, whatever weight the day has piled upon your branches, you do not have to stand rigid beneath it. You can bend, like the bamboo, and let it slide off, and spring back light and whole. You can yield to the tiredness instead of fighting it. You can yield to the night, and to the breath, and to the slow pull of sleep, bending gently lower and lower until every burden of the day simply slides off you into the dark, and you are left, like the bamboo, unburdened, whole, and green. There is nothing to force here. The bamboo does not force. The bamboo bends and survives and rises again with the morning. Let us rest here now and bend, gently, like the bamboo under the soft weight of the night. Let the day slide off you. Let the breath grow slow, like the still water far beneath the storm. There is nothing left to hold rigid against. When you are ready, we will go on together, softer still. There is a teaching in the way a single candle can light 1,000 others and lose nothing of itself, and it speaks to a fear that keeps many of us tight and guarded, even when we most long to be soft. We move through our days as though our peace, our warmth, our patience, our love were a small and fixed store that must be hoarded, as though every bit we give to someone else is a bit taken from us, so that we must ration ourselves, guard ourselves, keep something back. But watch a candle. Its flame is whole and bright and warm. And when you touch its wick to an unlit candle, the second candle catches and burns, and the first candle is not diminished at all. It is exactly as bright as it was. You can light 100 candles, 1,000, from that single flame, and fill a whole dark hall with light, and the first small flame burns on, undimmed, having lost nothing, having only given. The Buddha is said to have used just this image. Thousands of lamps can be lit from a single lamp, and the life of that lamp is not shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. There is a story of an old woman who lived alone at the edge of a village and was known, quietly, as the happiest person for many miles. There once lived a widow in a small house near the road who had very little, a garden, a few chickens, a pot for tea, and yet everyone who passed through the village came away speaking of her warmth, the way she seemed to have an endless supply of kindness to give, a cup of tea for every traveler, a gentle word for every trouble, a patience that never seemed to run dry, no matter how many came to her door. And a young man, weary and hardened by his own struggles, could not understand it, and he came to her one evening and said, almost angrily, "How do you do it? I guard every scrap of my own peace, and I have none. You give yours away to every stranger on the road, and you seem to have oceans of it. It makes no sense. Surely you must run out. Surely giving so much must leave you empty." And the old woman smiled, and lit a candle in the growing dark, and then she took a second candle and lit it from the first, and a third, and a fourth, until her small table was full of soft light, and she said, "Look, which of these flames is smaller for having given its light to the others?" Kindness is not water in a jar that runs out when you pour it. It is fire. The more you give it away, the more light there is, and your own flame burns exactly as warm as before. You are guarding a flame as though it were water, child. That is why you are always cold. Stop hoarding it. Light everything you can reach. You will not run out. That is not how fire works. We do the same as that young man, so often, hoarding our warmth, rationing our patience, holding back our tenderness, as though we had only a small fixed store of it that must be protected, and growing colder and more depleted the more tightly we guard it. The young man's trouble is our own. His caution was not wicked, it came from real weariness, real depletion, a real fear of being drained. But he had mistaken the fire for water, and here is the strange part. The warmth we are so afraid of running out of is the one thing that grows by being spent. The kindness given returns as more kindness. The patience offered deepens into more patience. The love poured out fills the one who pours it. Tonight, you do not have to guard your small flame so fiercely. You are not as depleted as your tiredness tells you. And in the morning, when you meet the world again, you can let yourself be a lit candle in a dark hall, giving warmth freely, losing nothing. But that is for the morning. For now, let your own small flame simply burn, quiet and warm, in the dark, asking nothing, needing to light nothing, only glowing softly to itself as you drift toward sleep. Let us pause here together and let the flame burn low and warm. Feel the breath, feel the gentle heat of simply being alive, here, in the quiet dark. When you are ready, we will go on, slower and softer, deeper toward sleep. Dogen, the old master, left us one image, so beautiful that it can quiet the mind all by itself, if you let it settle. He said that enlightenment is like the moon, reflected in a dewdrop. The whole moon, the entire vast bright moon that hangs over the mountains, is held complete and perfect in a single drop of dew, trembling on a blade of grass, and the dewdrop is not broken by holding the whole moon, and the moon is not made smaller by being held in so small a thing. And there are countless dewdrops, on countless blades of grass, in a single field on a single morning, and the whole moon is reflected perfectly and completely in every single one of them, all at once, losing nothing, divided into nothing. This is what he wanted us to feel about ourselves. You are the dewdrop. You are small and brief and trembling, and you will be gone by mid-morning when the sun comes, and the whole of it, the whole vast bright wholeness of things, the entire moon of peace and awakening, is held, complete and perfect, right now, in the small brief trembling drop that you are. You do not have to be larger to hold it. The dewdrop does not have to become the ocean to reflect the whole moon. It only has to be still enough and clear enough to let the moon appear. Do you feel it? This is the whole answer to the ache we began with, held in a single drop of dew. You have been searching for the moon as though it were far away, as though you were too small a thing to ever hold it, as though you would have to become someone grander and calmer and wiser before the great peace could ever be yours. And Dogen, with infinite gentleness, is showing you the dewdrop trembling on the grass in the dark, holding the entire moon, whole and perfect, exactly as it is, small, brief, trembling, and complete. You are not too small to hold peace. You are exactly the right size, the size of a dewdrop, which is the size that holds the whole moon. You do not have to grow. You only have to grow still and clear and let the moon, which is already shining, appear in you, which it will, in its own time, the moment you stop shaking the grass. We do the same as a dewdrop that does not know it holds the moon, trembling on our blade of grass, feeling small and brief and insignificant, certain that the great peace belongs to larger and finer vessels than ourselves, never noticing that the whole of it is already reflected, complete, in the small clear drop we are. If we are honest, most of us have felt too small, too ordinary, too troubled to be a proper home for anything holy or whole. And here is the strange part. It is precisely the small, brief, trembling dewdrop that holds the entire moon, not despite its smallness, but in it, wholly, perfectly, right now. Tonight, you do not have to be more than you are. The whole moon is already in you, this very night, this very breath. Grow still and let it appear. Let the grass stop shaking, let the drop go clear, and rest, knowing that the vast, bright wholeness you have been searching for the whole world over has been trembling, all along, in the small, quiet drop of you. Let us rest here now, small and clear and whole, holding the moon without effort. Let the breath grow still. Let the grass stop trembling. When you are ready, we will go on, down into the deep quiet, toward sleep. There is a last story, an old and simple one, of two travelers and a bell, and it gathers up everything we have said. Two travelers were walking together at dusk, through the hills toward a distant temple, and both were tired, and both were troubled, each carrying his own private weight of worry, and as they walked, the great bronze bell of the temple began to ring out across the valley, slow and deep, one long tone after another, rolling over the hills in the gathering dark. And the first traveler, whose mind was churning with his worries, heard the bell and thought only, "Ah, the bell. That means the temple is still far. We have hours yet to walk. My feet already ache. This is unbearable." And each toll of the bell became one more strike against him, one more measure of how far he still had to go, and he walked on more miserable with every ring. But the second traveler heard the very same bell, the very same slow, deep tones rolling over the very same hills, and he stopped for a moment, and closed his eyes, and simply listened. And to him, each toll of the bell was a small gift, a moment of pure sound in the quiet dusk, complete in itself, asking nothing, meaning nothing, beyond its own deep beauty rolling out across the darkening valley. And he opened his eyes and walked on, and his weariness had loosened, and his worry had grown quiet, and he could not have told you why, except that he had let the bell simply be a bell. The bell was the same bell. The hills were the same hills. The distance still to walk was exactly the same for both of them. The only difference was what each man did with the sound, whether he made it into a measure of his suffering, or let it be the simple gift it was. And this is the whole of it, the truth beneath every story tonight. The night is the same night for the one who fights it and the one who yields to it. The wakefulness is the same wakefulness for the one who wars against it and the one who rests in it. The breath is the same breath, the bed the same bed, the quiet the same quiet, and the only thing that turns it from a burden into a blessing is whether we clutch it as a measure of all we lack, or let it be the simple gift it already is. We do the same as those two travelers, walking the very same road, hearing the very same bell, and one of us suffers, and one of us is at peace. And the difference was never in the road or the bell, but only in the listening. The first traveler's trouble is our own, the way we take the plain, neutral facts of a night and turn each one into evidence against ourselves, into one more toll, counting off how far we are from where we wish to be. And here is the strange part, the last strange part, the one this whole night has circled slowly down toward. Nothing about your night needs to change for it to become peaceful. Not one thing. The bell need not stop ringing. The distance need not shorten. You need only stop making the bell into a burden and let it be a bell. Let the breath be a breath. Let the dark be the dark. Let the wakefulness, if it comes, be simply wakefulness, a soft, neutral thing, no enemy at all. And let sleep come or not come in its own time while you rest, either way, in the one who is listening, the still, deep, peaceful one who was never troubled by the bell, who was only ever troubled by the story about the bell. Let us rest here now, and let the bell be a bell. Let the breath be a breath. Let the night be exactly what it is, and let it be enough. There is nothing left to fight, nothing left to make into a burden. When you are ready, we will go on together, softer still, nearer to sleep. Zhuangzi, that laughing old sage, told one more story that belongs here at the end, before we let everything go. the story of the man who was afraid of his own shadow. There once was a man who was troubled, deeply troubled, by his own shadow, and by the sound of his own footprints following behind him, and he grew so distressed by these two things that he resolved to escape them, to get away from them once and for all. So he began to walk faster, to leave his shadow and his footprints behind, but of course the shadow kept perfect pace beside him, and the footprints kept falling, one after another, no matter how quickly he went. So he began to run. And still the shadow ran alongside him, and still the footprints fell, and now they fell faster, more of them, because he was running. So he ran faster still, certain that if he could only go fast enough, he would at last outrun the shadow and the sound of his own steps. And he ran, and ran, faster and faster, more and more desperate, until at last his strength gave out entirely, and he fell down, and died, never knowing, poor man, that all he had ever needed to do was step into the shade of a tree, and his shadow would have vanished, sit down and be still, and his footprints would have stopped falling. He ran himself to death, fleeing two things that would have disappeared the instant he stopped running. Sit with that, gently, for it is the whole of the ache we named at the very beginning of this night, told one final way. The man's shadow was his own restlessness. His footprints were the endless traces of his own striving, each new step laying down a new print to be troubled by. And the faster he ran to escape his own trouble, the more of it he made, and the more exhausted he grew, and the further he flew from the one thing that would have saved him, which was simply to stop, to sit down, to be still. The shadow that torments us is cast by our own running. The searching that wearies us lays down, with every step, the very footprints we are trying to escape. And there is only ever one answer, the same answer this whole night has been circling down toward, the same answer the man never found. Stop running, sit down in the shade, be still, and watch the shadow you were fleeing simply melt away, because it was never anything but the shape of your own motion. We do the same as that poor running man so much of the time, fleeing our own restlessness by adding more restlessness, trying to outrun our own weariness by running harder, laying down fresh footprints of striving with every anxious step, and then being troubled by the very prints we lay, never guessing that the peace we are chasing so frantically would arrive the instant we stopped chasing. The man's trouble is our own, and it is the truest and simplest trouble there is. His fear was real. The shadow really did follow him. He was not imagining it. And here is the strange part, the last strange part, the one to carry down into sleep. He did not need to run faster, or further, or find some distant place beyond the reach of his shadow. He needed only to stop, and sit, and be still, and the shadow would keep him company no longer, and the footprints would cease. Tonight, you do not have to outrun anything. You do not have to search one step further. You have run far enough. You have run for years, perhaps, chasing a peace that ran exactly as fast as you did, because it was your own shadow all along. Now at last, in the dark, you may do the one thing that ends it. You may stop. You may sit down in the deep shade of the night and be still, and let the shadow melt, and let the footprints cease, and rest. Let us pause here now, and stop running, all the way, together. There is nowhere left to run to, there is nothing left to flee. Sit down, in the deep quiet shade of the dark, and be still, and feel the shadow dissolve. Feel the breath. When you are ready, we will go on, gently, into the last of the quiet. There is a small, famous exchange among the old Zen students that holds, in a handful of words, everything we have said tonight about where peace truly lives. Two monks stood watching a banner ripple and snap in the wind atop the temple, and they fell to arguing about it. "The flag is moving," said the first monk. "Look how the flag moves in the wind." "No," said the second, "it is the wind that is moving. The flag is only cloth. It is the wind that stirs it." And they argued back and forth. The flag, the wind, the flag, each certain he was right, and neither able to persuade the other. And an old teacher, passing by, heard them, and he stopped, and he said gently, "It is not the flag that moves, it is not the wind that moves, it is your mind that moves." And the two monks fell silent, for they understood, all at once, that they had been arguing about the wrong thing entirely. This does not mean the wind is not real, or the flag, or the world and all its troubles. It means that what we suffer is not the flag and not the wind, but the movement of our own minds around them, the restless stirring, the arguing, the grasping, the endless commentary the mind lays over everything that happens. Two people can stand before the very same event, the very same loss, the very same sleepless night, and for one, it is unbearable, and for the other, it is simply what is happening, and the difference is not in the event, but in the moving of the mind. All night we have been saying this, in a dozen shapes: the empty boat, the two travelers and the bell, the two neighbors at the farmer's gate. It is not the flag, it is not the wind, it is the mind that moves. And when the mind grows still, the flag still ripples, and the wind still blows, but there is no one left to be troubled by it, only a deep, quiet watching, at peace. We do the same as those two arguing monks, nearly always, fixing our attention on the flag and the wind, on the outer things, on what happened, and who did it, and what it means, arguing with reality, stirring and stirring, never noticing that all the movement, all the trouble, is in our own restless minds. The monk's trouble is our own. Their argument was not foolish. The flag really did ripple. The wind really did blow. But they had mistaken the place where the real motion was. And here is the strange part, the one we end on before we let it all dissolve. When the mind grows still, the whole world grows still with it, not because the wind has stopped, but because the one who was troubled by the wind has come to rest. Tonight, you do not have to still the wind. You could not if you tried. The wind blows where it will. You do not have to stop the flag. You have only to let your own mind grow quiet, to stop stirring, to stop arguing with the night, and then let the wind blow, and the flag ripple, and the thoughts drift by like clouds, while you rest in the still deep place beneath all motion, the place that was never moving, the peace you were searching for, which was only ever the stillness of the one who searched. Let us rest here now and let the mind grow still, while the wind blows on without us. Let the thoughts drift by like clouds and ask nothing of you. Let the breath grow slow and deep. There is nothing left to argue with, nothing left to still, but the gentle motion of the mind, which is already, now, growing quiet. When you are ready, we will go on together, into the very last of the teaching, and then into rest. There is a story of a sculptor and a block of stone, and it is the gentlest possible way to say the truest thing of all, that peace is not something added to you, but something uncovered. A young apprentice once watched an old master sculptor work, day after day, upon a great rough block of marble, chipping and smoothing, until slowly, out of the shapeless stone, there emerged a figure of such grace and stillness that it seemed almost to breathe. And the apprentice, amazed, said, "Master, how did you make something so beautiful out of a plain block of rock? Where did you get such a figure?" And the old sculptor set down his tools and wiped his hands and said, "I did not make it. I did not put the figure into the stone. The figure was already there, whole and perfect, inside the block, from the very beginning. It was only hidden under all the stone that was not it. I did not add anything. I only, patiently, took away everything that was not the figure, and there it was, as it had always been, waiting." Sit with that, for it is the last picture of the night, and it is you. You have thought, perhaps, all this long while, that peace was something you had to acquire, to build up, to add to yourself, piece by piece, like stone laid upon stone, until at last you had constructed something calm and whole. But the sculptor tells us it is the other way around entirely. The piece is already there, whole and perfect, inside you, and always has been, from the very beginning. The figure in the marble, the moon in the dewdrop, the clear water beneath the mud. It is not hidden because you lack it. It is hidden only under everything that is not it. Under the striving, the grasping, the carrying, the second arrows, the running from your own shadow, the endless stone of worry piled over it. And the whole of the path, The only path there is not to add peace to yourself, but to let fall away, gently, patiently, everything that is not it, until what was always there is uncovered at last, breathing, still, waiting, exactly as it has waited all along. We do the same as that apprentice, most of our lives, believing we must somehow make our peace, constructed out of achievements and arrangements and self-improvement, adding and adding, when all the while the peace stands finished and perfect within us, buried only under everything we keep piling on top of it. If we are honest, we have spent years trying to build the very thing we needed only to uncover, and here is the strange part, the last and gentlest one, the one to fall asleep upon. Tonight, you do not have to add a single thing to yourself to be at peace. You have only to let things fall away. The day, the worry, the searching, the whole heavy stone of all that is not the quiet figure at your center, and let it drop, chip by chip, breath by breath, into the dark, until what remains is what was always there, whole and still and perfect, the peace you were carved around, the peace you are. There is nothing to build tonight. There is only this letting fall, this setting down, this gentle uncovering of the stillness that was there before you were born and will be there when the last of the stone has fallen away. Let us rest here now and let it all fall away, gently, together. Let the day fall, let the worry fall, let the searching fall, and feel, underneath it all, the still figure that was always there, breathing quietly in the dark. When you are ready, we will gather up all we have seen, and then let it, too, dissolve into sleep. Let us walk back, slowly and softly, through everything we have shared tonight, and you will see that it was never many things. It was one thing, turned in the light, showing us a different face each time. We began with the Buddha resting between the two sal trees, telling his weeping disciples that the peace they were grieving to lose had never been his to give, because it was already in them, that they had been looking outward for the very thing that was doing the looking. And we named the ache of the search, the long, tired searching for a peace that always seems to live somewhere else, in the next season, the next success, the next quiet morning. That was where we started. Then we sat with the old teacher and the overflowing cup, and we learned that we come to rest already full of our effort to rest, full of our theories about how peace should feel, and that we must empty the cup, not by adding and emptying, but by setting down the pot. We met the farmer whose horse ran away, who held every turn of fortune with an open hand, saying only, maybe, maybe not, we will see. And we learned that it is not the events of our lives that wear us out, so much as our instant verdicts upon them. We stood with the archer who could not miss until it mattered, and learned that grasping at the outcome pulls us out of the only place the shot can be made, here, now, with this breath. We floated on the still water, and learned that the peace is in the letting go, and never in the effort, and that we sink only when we fight. We carried the mother and her handful of mustard seed through a town where every house had known death, and we learned that we are not the exception to sorrow, but the company of it, and that there is an enormous comfort in that. We stirred a spoonful of salt into a cup and then into a lake, and learned to stop being a cup and become a lake, so wide that the same trouble barely touches us. We walked with the two monks and the woman at the river, and learned that the old monk set her down on the bank 3 hours ago, and asked why we are still carrying her. We were struck by the empty boat in the fog, and learned that most of what wounds us is an empty boat adrift on its own weather, never rowed at us at all. We held Ajahn Chah's glass, already broken, and learned to love what passes precisely because it passes. We tasted the tea, at last, with the merchant, and learned that we own our lives and taste almost none of them because we are hardly ever in the room where our life is happening. We watched the muddy water, clear on its own, and the foolish farmer who pulled his rice shoots and killed the crop, and we learned that there is nothing to force, that we grow in the dark in ways we cannot see. And then, at the very heart of it, we met the farmer, searching the whole countryside for the ox he was riding the entire time, and the monk who searched 40 years and learned, on the last night, that the searching was the only thing in the way, that the one searching for peace is peace itself, that you cannot lose the ox you are riding, cannot search your way out of the calm that is doing the searching. We set down the second arrow and learned to feel the first pain cleanly without firing the rest into our own wound. We were the little wave, terrified of the shore, and learned we are the ocean, that the breaking is not our death, but our homecoming. We emptied the scholar's cup and became beginners again, meeting the night as if we had never seen it. And we watched the sleepless king envy the servant on his bed of straw, and learned to set the kingdom down at the door, because nothing we carry needs to be held through the dark. And we walked on, further into the night, and gathered still more. We set the raft down at the water's edge with the grateful traveler, and stood with the man who kept the walls of a prison he had already left, and learned that the door has been open a long time, and we can come all the way out. We hung from the vine with the tigers above and below, and the mice gnawing quietly, and reached out, and tasted the wild strawberry, and learned that the sweetness does not wait for the tigers to leave. We touched the elephant in the dark, with the blind men, each certain of his one small part, and learned to hold our certainties as lightly as an open hand on a great warm living side. We woke, with Zhuangzi, from the butterfly dream, and learned to hold even ourselves lightly, like a butterfly cupped in open hands. We watched the proud oak crack under the snow, while the bamboo bent, and let it slide off, and sprang back whole, and learned that force loses what softness keeps. We lit one candle from another and lost nothing, and learned that warmth is fire, not water, and grows by being given. We saw the whole moon held complete in a single trembling drop of dew, and learned that we are not too small to hold the peace we seek, that we are exactly the right size. And we heard the temple bell roll over the hills, and learned that nothing about the night needs to change for it to become peaceful, that we need only let the bell be a bell. We ran with the frightened man who fled his own shadow and his own footprints until his strength gave out, and learned that all he ever needed was to sit down in the shade and be still. And we stood with the two monks beneath the rippling banner, and learned that it is not the flag that moves, and not the wind, but the mind, and that when the mind grows still, the whole world comes to rest. And last of all, we watched the old sculptor uncover the finished figure that had waited whole inside the stone from the beginning, and learned that peace is never something we must add to ourselves, but only something we let the rest fall away from, until what was always there stands quietly revealed. Do you see it? It was all one thing. Every teacher, every parable, every image of water and stone and salt and tea and hay and snow and dew was pointing, patiently, from a new direction each time, at the same single truth. The truth that you do not have to travel one step to reach the peace you long for, do not have to build it, do not have to earn it, do not have to become someone worthier first. It is already here, in the one who longs. It is already yours, in the one who searches. It is the still water you have been throwing stones into, the ox you have been riding while you looked for it, the figure that has waited, finished and whole, inside the stone of you, since before you were born. Every story, every teacher, every image of water and stone and tea and salt and hay was pointing at the same single truth, coming at it from a new direction each time so that it could slip past our defenses and settle, quietly, where it was needed. The truth is this: you do not have to find peace, because you have never once been without it. You have only been searching so hard, and carrying so much, and fighting the water so fiercely, that you could not feel the still deep thing you have been all along. And now, having walked all the way through the night, we come to the last and simplest teaching, which is not really a teaching at all, but a doing. We come to sleep itself, because sleep itself is the purest letting go there is. It is the truest teacher of everything we have said tonight, and it asks nothing of you but the one thing this whole night has been about. Think of it. No one has ever fallen asleep by force. No one, in all the history of the world, has ever gripped their way into sleep, tried their way into rest, achieved slumber through effort and will. Sleep comes only to the one who stops reaching for it, who lies down and sets the day at the door and lets go and floats. Sleep is the ox you are riding. Sleep is the still water beneath the storm. Sleep is the empty cup and the open hand and the wave sinking home into the sea. You do not have to do anything to fall asleep tonight, except stop doing, stop searching, stop carrying, stop trying, and let the oldest and gentlest tide there is carry you down in its own time, the way it has carried you every night of your life. There is nothing to force here, there never was. This is why every teaching tonight was, in the end, a teaching about sleep, and why sleep, in the end, is the truest teaching of them all. The farmer setting down his verdict, the archer letting go of the prize, the swimmer trusting the water, the monk stepping down at last from the ox, all of them were learning, in their own way, the one thing your body already knows how to do the moment you stop interfering with it, which is to let go, and be carried, and rest. So you already know how to do this. You have done it every night of your life. Tonight we are only remembering, together, how little it asks of you. So let us together, in these last long minutes, simply let go, not of some far-off idea, but of the actual body lying here in the dark, part by part, softening, sinking, coming home. Let your attention drift, gently, with no effort at all, up to the very top of your head, to the crown, where the day gathers without our noticing. Let it soften. Let the scalp loosen, all across the top of the head, all the tiny muscles you never think of, letting go now, going soft and warm and heavy, releasing. Let that softening flow down over the back of your head, down to where the head rests its whole weight into the pillow, and let it rest there completely. You do not have to hold your head up. The pillow has it. The earth beneath the pillow has it. Let it be held. Let the softening move down now into your forehead, that place where we frown at our worries all day long without ever knowing we are doing it. Let the forehead grow smooth and wide and clear, like still water at dawn with the whole sky held in it. Let the space between your eyebrows, that small tight knot where we gather our thinking, simply open and release and go soft. Let your eyes rest in their sockets, heavy and still, the eyelids growing warm and weighted. No need to hold them, no need to look for anything, nothing left to search for tonight. Let the eyes grow heavy and let them rest. Let your cheeks soften. Let the whole face, which has worn so many expressions today, for so many people, let it all go now. Let it be still. Let it be your own, unwatched, at peace. And let your jaw release. We hold so much in the jaw, clenched tight against the day, holding words we did not say and words we wish we had. Let it unclench. Let the teeth part, just slightly. Let the jaw grow slack and loose and heavy. Let it hang soft. Let your tongue rest in your mouth, soft and still. Let all the small muscles around your mouth let go. Feel how the whole face, now, is completely at rest, smooth and heavy and warm, sinking gently into the pillow, held, needing nothing, doing nothing, softening more with each slow breath. And let this warm heaviness flow down now into your neck, all the long muscles of the neck that hold your head up all day, that carry so much, letting go now, softening, lengthening, resting, and down into the shoulders. Oh, the shoulders, where we carry the whole weight of everything, hunched up toward our ears, against the world without ever knowing it. Let them drop. Let them fall away from your ears, down and back, heavy and wide and loose. Let them melt into the bed. You are not carrying anything now. There is nothing on your shoulders tonight. Whatever you said at the door, it is still at the door, and it is fine there, and your shoulders are free of it at last. Let them sink, and let the release flow down your arms now, slowly, like warm water pouring down through the upper arms, soft and heavy, down through the elbows, letting them go, down through the forearms, growing warm and weighted, down into the wrists and into the hands. Let your hands grow completely soft. All day these hands have held things, gripped things, done the 1,000 small tasks of your life. Let them open now. Let them rest. Let the fingers uncurl and grow loose and heavy, every finger soft, the palms open and still. There is nothing to hold now. There is nothing to grasp. Let the hands rest open, the way you let go of the water when you stopped clenching your fist, and feel how the openness is not a loss but a rest. Let them lie there, warm and heavy and empty and at peace. Let your attention drift now to your chest, to the slow rise and fall of it, the breath moving in and out on its own, without your help, without your effort, the way it has your whole life while you were busy elsewhere. Do not change it. Do not deepen it or slow it or manage it in any way. Only feel it, the gentle swell of the in-breath, the long, soft release of the out-breath, like a small tide on a calm shore, coming and going, all by itself. And with each out-breath, let yourself sink a little deeper. Let the chest soften around the heart. Let the heart, which has felt so much today, which has carried its aches and its hopes, simply rest now, beating its quiet, patient beat, asking nothing of you. Let your whole chest grow warm and heavy and still. Let the softening move down into your belly now, that place where we hold our fear, tight and guarded all day long. Let it go soft. Let the belly rise and fall freely with the breath, unguarded, undefended, soft as a sleeping child's. There is nothing to protect against here in the dark. You are safe. You can let the belly be completely soft. Feel it release. Feel the warmth spread through the whole center of you. Feel yourself sinking deeper into the bed, heavier, warmer, more at rest, with every slow breath that comes and goes on its own. Let the release flow down now into your hips, into the whole base of you, letting go, growing heavy, settling down into the bed like a stone, settling gently to the soft floor of a quiet lake. Let the lower back release, all the muscles that have held you upright all day, letting go now, spreading out, resting. Let your hips sink. Let them be completely supported, completely held, nothing to hold up anymore. And let this warm heaviness pour down now into your legs, slowly, like the last of the day draining away, down through the thighs, the big strong muscles that carried you everywhere you went today, letting them go now, soft and heavy, sinking into the bed. Down through the knees, releasing, down through the calves, growing warm and loose and weighted, down through the ankles, letting them go, and into your feet that carried your whole weight all day long without a word of complaint, that took you through every step of this day. Let them rest now completely. Let every small bone in them soften. Let the toes uncurl and grow loose. Let the feet grow warm and heavy and utterly still. There is nowhere left to walk tonight, nowhere to go, nothing to reach. The searching is over. The feet can rest. And now feel your whole body, all at once, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, lying here in the dark, heavy and warm and soft and completely at rest. Feel how the bed holds all of it, every part, without any effort from you. Feel how you are held, by the bed, by the floor beneath it, by the patient earth beneath that, by the whole quiet turning world, all of it holding you up, so that you do not have to hold anything at all. You are the little wave, sinking home into the sea. You are the still water, deep beneath the storm, where nothing can reach you. You are the one who searched, and you are the peace you searched for, and there was never any distance between the two. Let the breath come and go. Let the body grow heavier still. Let go, and go on letting go, deeper with each slow breath, down and down into the soft, warm dark, in your own time, with nothing left to do and nowhere left to be, but here, held and quiet and at peace. There is nothing left to reach for now. There is nothing left to fix, nothing left to solve, nothing left to carry. You have set the kingdom down at the door, and it is fine there, and it will keep until morning. You do not have to think about tomorrow. Tomorrow does not exist yet, and it does not need you tonight. You do not have to think about today. Today is done, set down on the far bank of the river, already behind you. There is only this breath, this warmth, this heaviness, this soft and gathering dark, and the deep still water of you, which was always at peace, which is at peace now, which needs nothing from you, but that you let yourself sink into it and rest. Let each breath carry you a little further down, breathing in and letting go, breathing out and sinking deeper, like a leaf drifting slowly down through still water, turning gently, in no hurry, nowhere to arrive, simply falling softer and slower and deeper into the quiet. Down past the last of the day's thoughts, which drift by now like clouds, and ask nothing of you, and float away. Down past the last of the worries, which loosen their grip, and dissolve like salt into the wide lake of you. Down into the deep, still, peaceful place that has been waiting beneath everything all along, the place you were searching for, the place you already are. And if any part of you is still holding, still bracing, still keeping some small watch against the dark, let us go through it all once more, slower even than before, and let it all go. Feel your face again and let it soften completely, the brow smooth, the eyes heavy, the jaw loose and slack, the whole face at rest like still water. There is nothing to watch for. Let it go. Feel your shoulders again, and let them sink one more inch away from your ears, heavy and wide, melting into the bed. There is nothing to carry. Let them go. Feel your arms, your hands, and let them grow heavier still, the fingers soft and open, holding nothing, reaching for nothing, at peace. Let them go. Feel your chest rising and falling, slower now, the breath moving all on its own, and let the heart beneath it rest, quiet and patient, asking nothing of you. Let it go. Feel your belly, soft and unguarded, rising and falling like a small calm tide. There is nothing to defend. Let it go. Feel your hips, your back, sinking down, fully held, fully supported, like a stone settled on the soft floor of a still lake. Let them go. Feel your legs grow heavy and warm, the thighs, the knees, the calves, all of it softening, sinking, at rest. Let them go. And feel your feet, that carried you so faithfully today, resting now completely, with nowhere left to walk, nowhere left to go, nothing left to reach. The searching is over. Let them go. And now, let the whole body go at once, all of it together, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, heavy and warm and soft and utterly at rest, sinking, held, needing nothing, doing nothing, letting go and going on letting go, deeper with each slow breath, down and down, like a leaf drifting through still water into the soft, warm dark. You are the dewdrop holding the whole moon. You are the wave sinking home into the sea. You are the still deep water beneath every storm, where nothing has ever been troubled, where you have always, always been at peace. There is nothing left to do. There is nowhere left to go. There is no one you need to be. There is only this, the breath, the warmth, the dark, and the quiet, endless, gathering rest. May your sleep tonight be deep and unhurried, soft as still water, wide as the quiet dark. May every part of you that worked so hard today be allowed, now, to rest. May you set down all that you carried and find that you did not need to carry it at all. May the searching cease and the stillness rise up to meet you, gently, in its own time. May you feel yourself held tonight, by the dark, by the earth, by something far larger and far kinder than your fear. May you remember, even in your dreams, that the peace you longed for was never far away, was never something to be won, was only ever the quiet depth of the one who longed. May you stop running, at last, from a shadow that was only ever the shape of your own motion, and sit down in the deep shade of this night, and be still. May you set the kingdom down at the door, and trust that it will keep until morning. May you empty the cup and let the water show you what was always there. May you become the lake, wide enough that no trouble can turn you bitter. May you float and be held and stop fighting the water that was always able to carry you. May you taste the strawberry of this quiet hour and find it sweet. May you be, tonight, the dewdrop that holds the whole moon without effort, and the still water in which the moon appears, and the deep sea that loses no wave. And may you know, In the wordless way the body knows as it sinks toward sleep, that the one who has been searching all this while for peace is peace itself, and always was, and had only to grow quiet enough to feel it. And may you wake, when morning comes, in its own time, feeling rested and held, lighter than you lay down, carrying nothing you do not need, ready to meet the new day softly, as a beginner, with an open hand. Rest now. There is nothing more to do. There is nothing more to find. There is nowhere more to go, and no one you need to become. Let the breath breathe itself. Let the body sink. Let the mind grow still. Let the searching, which carried you all this long way, come at last to its quiet end, here, in the dark, where it always meant to bring you. Let the dark hold you, the way it has held every tired soul who ever finally stopped searching and lay down. Let go, and go on letting go. Down and down, in your own time, softer and slower and deeper with each breath, into the deep and gentle quiet, into rest, into sleep. Sleep well, and thank you for joining us here at Midnight Monk.